Hey everybody, my name is Elizabeth and welcome back to my channel where I encourage everyone to get out and enjoy their lives, even if that means doing it by yourself. I'm here in Cincinnati at the Cincinnati Museum Center, and there is a special exhibit that I'm looking forward to seeing, and I'm just looking forward to seeing all the normal exhibits and seeing what they have. So come on, let's have some fun. Okay, I love this museum. It's in an old train terminal, and it's just such a cool building. So my understanding is that there are two sides to the museum, not counting the special exhibit. There is a history of Cincinnati side, and then there is a natural history museum side. I'm starting with the natural history because it's cooler and because I only have an hour and a half before my time slot for the special exhibit, and I want to make sure I get through this, and then what I have left, I will go see the special exhibit. So let's look at some dinosaur bones. So I just want to reiterate again how cool this museum is because, again, train terminal, and so just the layout of the whole thing is just so cool. And then we have dinosaur bones. I am curious to see, as we go around, how many of these are authentic, because if you saw my Kosai video, you remember me showing that so many of those bones were, some of them were authentic in the skeletons, and then some of them, the rest were all, recreations, and so, I'm always curious to see what percentage of these bones are actually real because, they find very few actual put together whole skeletons, and so I'm always curious to know that. So let's go and take a closer look. So I was looking at these and all the descriptions, but it does say the skulls on the skeletons in this gallery are casts of these originals. Oh, meaning these ones are the originals. Interesting. I know this is vegetarian, but his teeth are kind of freaky. Oh, and a little baby. Oh, I don't know if you can see on the wall on the other side of the skeleton, there's a projection of a bunch of sauropods moving in a herd. There was this little display thing back there talking about herd behavior. So that's kind of cool. Alright, let's start this way because it is the end of it. So, first of all, this is interesting because it doesn't have all the bones. This one actually, it has the outline, but then it only has a few of the bones filled in. So this is kind of what they do to show which of the bones are real and which are not real. And so this one is cool because they actually didn't fill in the rest. They left it blank and they just put the metal outline. And then they just put in the bones that they found. I actually like that better than, I know seeing a whole skeleton is cool, but then when I go and see how few of them are actually bones, I always feel a little gypped. And so I like seeing it like this and seeing how, how few bones they actually do find, from a full skeleton. Alright, so here we have some footprints. These two are casts. Both of them were found in Texas, but look at the size of that. But these ones over here, I think might be real. I don't see anywhere in the description that says they're just casts. So that up there, and then these different footprints, I think are real. Ooh. Let's looks complete to me. Let's see. Is this a cast? I always like to know if it's like actual or if it's not. I think they're. Oh, well, okay, hang on a second. So this one, which is that up there, says it's a cast. It says cast. This one is the skull and the partial wing, which is this. Does not say it's a cast, but then this one, which is the full one, says it is a cast, which makes sense as it's out and not behind glass. It makes sense that it's a cast. But this has got to be a cast, right? That can't be real. And then, of course, we have that guy up there. Let's see. Okay. Oh, this one is shockingly complete. So the red ones are the casts and the white ones are bone. And that's more than I feel like I usually see. So that's pretty cool. I just had to pause a minute before I came over here because there was a lady giving a tour to some people that wanted to have their wedding here, and she was saying you could have the bar here or the reception line here, and I thought, getting married with dinosaurs in the background, it's a cool building, but it would be one of a kind for sure. Let's go around to the other side because there's no sign here to say what these guys are. Okay, first of all, I'm on the other side. The skull is a cast. It says that's a cast. Let's find. Sorry, I just walked by. So that's a thigh bone, but it's hollow, and crystals have partially filled the hollow core of this bone. So you see it looks like a geode inside. That's pretty cool. And here's some eggs. Doesn't say what kind it is, they might not know, but it doesn't say it's a cast, so they must be real. Okay, and finally back to these two guys. They are both casts. Oh, here we go. So we're back to these guys. Well, again, my memory is that, like, it was more cast than bone, but that's not the case here. So there's the tip of its tail. And that's where its head is, and that's where it started up there. Okay. I think this next section is all about the ancient seafloor. So yeah, let's see what kind of fossils or information they have for us. A lot of fossilized little mollusks and different little creatures like them. Oh, cool. So there's an excavation here, and then we actually have stuff that they're working on in here. They even have this white board here that's talking about what they're doing. They're preparing real fossils for research in this lab. And back there, if you see, they're working on a Triceratops skull. Right there. And then if you look back at the whiteboard, it shows kind of like the part that's missing, like the part that we have, and then the part that's missing. Alright. So they have just kind of all over the place on the walls in here, different fossils of underwater life, mostly like different kinds of shells and mollusks and stuff. So far, nothing, like a megalodon or anything like that, but they're pretty cool. fossilized unicorn horn? I don't know. What is that? Treptoceras duceri? I don't know what that is. But it looks like a unicorn horn. Or maybe, a narwhal. That would make more sense, but yeah. Oh, it's a wooden sculpture. Which I knew it wasn't real, but I was like, what is this doing here? But that's interesting that, they have all these fossils and then a wooden sculpture from 1942. Oh. So a well-known diorama artist created this model showing what the scientist Kenneth E. Castor thought the Megaloraptus looked like in life. I always struggle with these big crustacean type things because I love lobster and I love crab. They're delicious, but then anytime I see them live, I'm like, that's just a spider. I have to and I think there's part of me that's like, that looks like a delicious lobster, and then I'm like, that looks like a nightmare. So it's the two sides of myself battling. And I think this is a fossil of what that is. I think it's a real one. It doesn't say it's a cast, so pretty cool. I found another one. Yeah, I think that's number 3, so it's some kind of cephalopod. I wonder if it's that cone-shaped thing that we saw the wood statue of. Maybe that's what it's a fossil of. Okay, so it looks like we're officially out of the ancient world. We're in advancing health now. It looks like this is a much more hands-on learning type of area. There's nobody in here because there's no dinosaur bones. Okay, yeah, there's lots of games and hands-on stuff back here, but it is less kiddie than some COSI. Okay, I'm having to pick and choose here because I only have 30 minutes left before I have to go to see the special exhibit, and there's a lot still to do. And I came sort of near the end of the day, so I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to see the rest after. But there is this cave, and I've gone through the cave before. I don't know that my leg is up to that. There's also this whole thing about the Ice Age. There's a Space Age section about talks Neil Armstrong is in the title of the section. And then of course there's a whole Cincinnati area. So I'm too many choices. I'm going to go through the Ice Age right now and hopefully still have time to go through the Space Age in a minute. So let's go to the Ice Age. All right. So I think I've only been here once before, but I remember the last time I came through here, I remember realizing that I was going through it backwards. And so hopefully this time I'm doing it right and I'm going through and seeing it the right way. But they have, of course, it goes pretty far back there and there's actual real running water there. Of course that's not real ice, but it's meant to look like the Ice Age and it sounded like there was a bird. Okay, so let's keep following the path. There's a video playing here, so you might hear it in the background. I'm not sure how much my mic is picking that up. Let's see. All these skulls here. You understand when you see the skulls of elements and stuff, why they thought it was a cyclops, because of that empty space in the middle of the skull. If you saw it and didn't know what an elephant was and it didn't have tusks, you would be like, oh, this is cyclops. That's the only thing it can't be. All these things in here, it looks like, are authentic, no casts. So these are teeth, and then, of course, the jaws on the end. That is such a weird looking skull. That is so weird. Now I'm reading the sign, and I think this is the giant skeleton that we're seeing right there, and it does not say that it's a cast. So I've got to assume that that's real. It makes that face even weirder then. Like, those teeth are real? What? Alright, let's continue into the Ice Age. Even though I'm an adult, I do like it when museums do this kind of stuff because it just is more immersive. You know, it makes you actually put yourself in a very small idea of what it might have been like when there was an ice age. It's getting very loud because there's an actual waterfall up here. And that waterfall, the little creek, is running right beside the path. This is supposed to be what Sharonville, Ohio used to look like. You know how sometimes you see something and you panic and so you don't read correctly because your mind is panicking? So I saw this, which is a brown recluse spider model. And it does say magnified 9 times life size. That's how big it really is, which is still a good sized spider. But I saw that and my mind was so busy panicking trying to figure out if that was like a taxidermy type, you know, like a spider or a real one, that I saw life size and I panicked, and then I saw 9 times life size. That's the way my mind works. Okay, and here's a cross section of the redwood tree. It was cut down in 1932, and they know from counting the rings that this one was 1,400 years old. Let me flip the camera around and see if I can give you some kind of perspective on how big this is. Okay, yeah, so it is about a foot off the ground, but yeah, that's how big it is. How often have I talked about my love-fear relationship with bears? Has it been very often? I think they're amazing and awesome, and they terrify me to death. Okay, so I have 15 minutes left, and I just got to the Neil Armstrong Space Exploration Gallery, so I'm glad I get to do this too. So let's go through this pretty quickly and then head to the special exhibit. I have never done this part before because last time I was here I was kind of rushed for time too. So let's see. We'll do as much as we can.
July 1969. Became a day for all mankind.
Oh my goodness. Can I drive this? Oh, mine was over there. Clearly I didn't know what I was doing. Okay. Let's see. Maybe I'll fail this too. Your job is to make decisions that ensure safety of the astronauts and ensure the success of the mission. You have 45 seconds to consult with your team to get their recommendations before making the call about how to proceed. I have no team. We are relying on my own intellect and decision-making skills, which is terrifying. Okay, 30 seconds after launch. 30 seconds after launch, as the roaring Saturn V rocket is propelling them into space, the crew reports a long list of warning lights indicating there's a major electrical malfunction in the spacecraft. You must decide whether to execute an abort launch, a risky maneuver that will end the mission as soon as it has begun, or continue the mission without electrical power. Let's see. We have good communication with the crew. We just can't determine if the instruments are working correctly. We should let them get to orbit before trying a new maneuver. Spacecraft guidance systems are not working. Without them, the astronauts can't determine their altitude or trajectory. Crew is in good shape, but their heart rates are fast. They will be okay if we keep going. Electrical systems are not functioning. Let's change the signal condition. Experiment auxiliary return information. Rocket is functioning well. Engines are operating as planned. There will be 90 seconds after they reach orbit to decide whether the astronauts are in danger. Oh, we're continue mission. Oh, you made the right decision. I made the same decision as Flight Director Gary Griffin. He faced the situation on Apollo 12. The situation was serious, but he was still in communication with the crew, and they knew that they were not in immediate danger. Moon landing. As the lunar module approaches the surface of the moon, the astronauts are distracted by tracking speed, fuel, altitude, and their location, and are preparing for the complicated maneuvers needed to land on the airless lunar surface. Amidst all this activity, they are distracted by an alarm alerting them that the radar computer is overloaded. This is the second alarm occurrence during the descent. You need to decide, we go for landing or not go for landing. We're gonna go no. Oh, let's see. I made the wrong choice. They decided to go ahead and they were successful. That was Apollo 11. All right, crisis on the way to the moon. On the way to the moon, Apollo spacecraft has experienced an explosion. Oxygen levels are dangerously low in the main spacecraft, but the crew is safe at the moment in a connected lunar lander. I know this story. You need to decide whether we should fire our engine to return to Earth immediately or continue to the moon and use the moon's gravity to slingshot the ship back to Earth. I know this one because I know this story. I've seen the movie many times. Here, slingshot around the moon. Yes. So I got 2 out of 3 right. Okay, so the special exhibit is a traveling exhibit about Auschwitz. I probably won't take a whole lot of video in here just out of respect for the other people, respect for the topic. It's, solemn, and I don't want to minimize it by, walking around and talking to my phone. So I'll take some pictures. If I feel like there's something that I want to record a video of, probably won't talk during it, but I will, and I'll include those. But I just want to show respect, So I'll talk about it after I'm done. Don't expect a full tour. Well, so I am back from the museum. I actually got back a couple days ago, and I had to take a few days and just kind of collect my thoughts and what I wanted to say. I'm going to start with talking about the Auschwitz exhibit, and then I will talk about the whole museum experience. So, I don't regret not filming in there. It was absolutely the right decision. I knew going in that it was going to be a possibility that I wasn't going to want to film it all in there, and it wasn't going to feel respectful or appropriate. And so, when I got there, they said, like, you're welcome to take pictures without flash and all that kind of stuff. They just said, remember, to be, it is a solemn thing and to be respectful. And so I thought me walking through and talking to you guys while I did it was not at all going to be the right choice. So I didn't. And there were quite a few people, like not crowded, but there was almost always someone else around me. So it would have ruined their experience too. So, it was the right choice. So I took some pictures, but not a lot of pictures. And kind of for the same reason, a lot of the stuff, was just, it was very solemn, so, I didn't want to, it didn't feel like it was, needed, I guess. But the exhibit itself was really good. It started, the very first room, they had like an actual chunk of the fence. I do have a picture of part of the fence later on that I'll insert here. Imagine that, except there were several of these posts with barbed wire, and that was basically the first room that you walk into was this section of the fence. And then later they had that one post that you just saw. And then it kind of just went through the history of, it talked even about World War I, because that's when Germany lost, and they were forcibly demilitarized, and then you saw the rise of the Nazi Party and Hitler, and and their bitterness because of what happened after World War I, and them blaming the Jewish people, and it talked about all of that, and that was there was a lot of exhibits just about that, and like propaganda posters and things like that. They had a book that first they did have a copy of the Treaty of Versailles, which I did take a picture of that, and I'll insert that here. Just as part of the history of, the German history that led to World War II, that was kind of there as part of that. So there was this other book that was called The Jewish War Dead, I believe. And I'll put in the picture I took of that here. And this book, so part of Hitler and the rest of the Nazi Party, just a small part, but part of, why they started harboring this hatred for the Jewish people is because they blamed them for their loss in World War I, because they thought they just kind of sat by and didn't actually help with the war effort. And this book actually lists out the Jewish soldiers that died in the German army during World War I, kind of disproving that the Jewish people did, fight in the war, in the German Jewish population did fight in the war. And so that kind of, discredited Hitler's claim that they were not, that they just kind of sat by and watched it happen. I mentioned some of the propaganda posters. I didn't take any pictures of those. I did take some pictures of some of the posters. One, I think, was an authentic one from the time. It's in German. It showed the different patches that the prisoners were required to wear, that identified them as, maybe a political rival or whatever, or because they were of a specific race, or because they were a criminal or whatever. And there was actually quite a few different types of prisoners that were in the camps. And so then there was the original, and then they also had like a modern English translation one day, so you could see what all the different badges and different symbols meant. So I did take some pictures of those because I thought that was an interesting little bit of information. Then they also had all kinds of maps. I took a picture of one or two. There was, some different uniforms that the prisoners wore, some different clothing items and things like that from the prisoners, different little trinkets. I took very sparse pictures of those because as I was walking through looking at them, I couldn't help thinking about the fate of these people, and didn't really make me want to take pictures of them. But I did take a couple. There's a chess set that someone had carved and made, while they were at the camp, so they could use it there, with a little box that they used to keep the pieces in. I took a picture of that. But yeah, there was like a child's shoe, and I didn't want to take a picture of that. There was one room that this was in the section before, again, as I was kind of referencing before, they started with like right after World War I and then kind of went all the way up through the defeat of Germany and the release of the prisoners. And so partway through, they had this mural of it was an actual picture, but it was blown up to the size of the wall, of some German rally where Hitler was speaking. And I took a very small picture. Like, it was a huge wall with this picture, and I captured a very small part of it in my picture. Just the influence that he was starting to have in Germany. And then they had, I think it was an actual building from Auschwitz. And it was it a barrack? I don't remember, but I took a picture of it because you could like kind of walk in it and through it and stuff. And when I realized, I think this is authentic, I stopped and took a picture of it. But at the moment, I don't remember what type of building it was. I'm assuming it was some kind of a barrack, but I don't actually know. It had some pictures of some of the Nazi leaders of the camp. I didn't take any of their pictures, but I did find it sickening, I guess, for lack of a better word. One of the men in charge lived right next to the camp with his family, his wife and his young children, and they had this garden there, and they were talking, there were letters and stuff talking about how happy they were and they wanted for nothing, and right next door, just, horrible things were happening. So that was just, kind of there's sickening is the only word I can think of for that. And then I did another horrible piece of information that I found out that I'm going to share with you, is that there were instances of like German prisoners that were released from prison elsewhere and then taken to the concentration camps to act as like guards. And they were very brutal. So, and then one of the most moving thing for me is that they did have sporadically, pretty frequently actually. This was a very big exhibit. Like, you had different rooms that you kind of traveled through to viewed the different stages of the war and the different aspects of the concentration camp and things like that. And quite frequently they would have televisions set up, and most of the televisions, especially in the later part of the exhibit, had survivors of the concentration camp talking about their time and different aspects. And I'm not going to talk about any of the stories because I will probably start crying, because I did at the exhibit. Even without talking about them, I get emotional. those were definitely the most moving part. Because you could see the, like a child's shoe that they would have there. And of course that would be very moving, to realize of course we all know that there were children there, but, to see a memento like that is just even more, it just brings it, to life. But then to actually hear from the actual survivors, to hear a man say that, he waved goodbye to his wife and child at the gate and then never saw them again, And believe it or not, that was probably one of the tamer recollections that I heard. There were some that were much more shocking, I guess, and moving. But I would recommend anyone go to see it. If you live in the Cincinnati area or you see this exhibition come through, the Auschwitz exhibit, it is definitely worth a visit. Just know that it is a very solemn and a very emotional exhibit. So, but that doesn't mean I don't think you shouldn't go to see it. I think you should. I also think it's a great thing to do by yourself, because of the subject matter and because of how solemn it is. It's not something that you really want to talk to with someone else. Not that you won't want to talk to someone about it afterwards, but that when you're in it, you just kind of want to be by yourself with the information, And I kind of think that's appropriate. Actually, most people were not talking very much at all. Even if they were there with somebody, it was very quiet. And the two people that I saw that were there together that were talking a little too loud, if you ask me, seemed out of place. They were talking about the exhibit. They weren't being disrespectful. But it just seemed like the wrong thing. It's not something I wanted to have there when I was experiencing that. I didn't want to hear someone else talking about it. I wanted to, hear the information, look at the exhibits, and kind of be, respectful and present, with my own thoughts and not think about it and talk about it with someone else right there in the moment. And so, yeah, I think if you have an opportunity to go, maybe use it as an opportunity to do something by yourself, because I really think that's the best way to experience this exhibit, is by yourself. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that exhibit for right now. There's so much more to tell, and say. There was so much to it, but yeah, I think I'm just gonna keep a lot of those thoughts and memories to myself. So now, let's lighten things up and let me talk about the entire Cincinnati Museum experience that I have. Now, I do enjoy that museum. This is only the second time I've gone. I went a couple years ago when they had a Pompeii exhibit, which was fantastic. If you guys are in the Cincinnati area, look for those exhibits, the temporary exhibits at the Museum Center, because both the ones I've been to have been absolutely fantastic. And I'm excited to see which one comes next. But they do have a lot of fun stuff that is permanent. And I only showed you guys a fraction because I just mismanaged my time on Saturday. I was, having kind of a relaxing, lazy morning. And then all of a sudden I was like, shoot, I should go to the museum. Like, it closes at 5. I need to go. So I should have gotten there, 2 hours before I did if I wanted to see everything. But it is a cool museum. But they had so many interactive things there and it wasn't even just like a kids, interactive. Usually when I'm thinking of a museum being interactive and like hands-on, I'm thinking very like COSI, which is the at the kids museum I went to a couple months ago in Columbus, I'm thinking of like, oh, kids would like this, this is really for kids, but adults wouldn't really get into it. But like so many of the hands-on things that they have there are not really for kids. Like the kids would have enjoyed that, like that thing where I was like deciding, like to go ahead with the mission or not. They would have been bored stiff, like, reading all of like the mission updates and things like that. That was totally for adults. Like that was not a kid's hands-on thing. And so I want to give like the Cincinnati Museum Center credit for that, because they are making a very hands-on, fun museum that is not just for kids. And I really appreciate that. As a single adult who does a lot of stuff by myself, to have a museum that's fun and that I can like sort of interact with, and not feel like I'm like standing in line with the kids, is, I really appreciate that. And I wish I would have taken the time, I wish I would have had the time to do more. I just didn't, but hey, that just means I have to go back in the future, right? And see some more. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this vlog. If you did, give it a like and subscribe and follow me on Instagram at Lead the Life Vlog, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.